screen. Alien, rated R from 20th Century Fox.
Welcome back to the show, everybody.
Happy Sigourney Summer. I was trying to think of a clever name for, like, the Sigourney Weaver miniseries.
Sure.
Sigourney Summer was the best I could come up with.
Let's run with it. Everybody out there listening, my name's Pete.
And I'm Scott, and these are the movies that made us gay.
Yes, indeed.
Old friend of mine,
Absolutely.
Drew Stanley. Welcome back on the show. You were last here.
Hello.
You were last here
Thanks
for our
having me
Labor
on.
Day episode of Fight Club.
Yeah.
And you joined us today, and we watched Alien, directed by Ridley Scott. Third Ridley Scott movie that we've done on the podcast. Did you know that, Pete?
Okay, I did not know that. That's interesting.
Released May 25th, 1979, written by Dan O'Bannon. Alien. Definitely been waiting to get to this one. I love this movie.
Andrew, this was your kind of request.
This was a Drew choice.
Yeah, your choice to do this one. Thank you for getting us to this film series.
And I did not know it was going to be a Sigourney Weaver double feature until I was lining them up in Excel. I was like, oh shit, we're doing two banger Sigourney movies like back to back. I love it.
It was just the universe willed it into existence.
Absolutely. Well, we usually start off with our kind of intros to the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's, why don't we jump right in? Drew, what are your earliest memories of Alien and Ripley?
Yeah, my earliest memories, I was probably, I don't even remember how young I was. I was very young because like it's been out since longer than I've been alive, and it's I remember just being terrified of the alien scene, especially the first, like when you first get the first glimpse of it in this movie, and like just also like icked out by the entire thing. The entire movie's aesthetic, I think, the thing that like sticks out the most to me is just how like wet it is. I don't know how else to describe it.
Totally.
It really is.
Yeah, definitely.
I have a pretty memorable story of watching this movie. This is
Lay it on me.
This is a Laserdisc viewing in my grandparents' basement.
Okay.
The Youngbauer grandparents had a Laserdisc player. I always talk about it on the show, and just certain movies I have Laserdisc memories of.
Yeah.
Alien is one of them. Cool. And I remember watching it in their basement. I was probably about maybe 11 or 12 years old, and just thinking it was incredible. I mean, from those opening titles alone, I was like, this is the scariest movie I've ever seen, and I am into it.
Yeah. Totally.
And I don't even, like, I think that my prior history with Alien, I remember being young when Alien 3 came out. Like, I just knew Woman with the Shaved Head, Alien 3. So that was kind of like my early introduction to the series is one that came out, and I think that was like 92. And then watching Alien. And I watched them in order. Aliens. I think that I caught Aliens on cable. And yeah, I mean, a huge fan immediately of this movie.
Yeah, I think once I got older and also like more into sci-fi in general, you start to just notice so much of the influence this movie had on other movies after it. Like it's just, especially like I'm sure we'll talk about the chest burster scene and such. That's just a classic scene.
The pre-production history of this movie is really fascinating. We'll get into it, but first, Pete.
Yes.
What about you?
My parents took me to see the sequel, Aliens, in 1986 in the theater. I was a young child, 8 years old.
I was just born.
And I think you were just born. And I think they just, they were young parents. They were just like, we want to go fucking see this movie. So come on, kids. I remember seeing Aliens, being very frightened. Remember we went to Shakey's Pizza afterwards and had a pepperoni pizza. And just kind of being fascinated by it and this character of Ripley. And then my next big memory of the franchise is Spaceballs.
Oh, sure.
Right? Which
There's
comes
a big
out
alien gag in that movie.
The very next year, in 1987, and just being
That's right.
completely in love with Spaceballs and seeing the chest burster scene with John Hurt in, this Mel Brooks movie.
Water my ass! Bring this guy some Pepto-Bismol! Waitress! What did he order?
Oh, he had a special.
That's what I ordered! I changed my order to the soup! Good move. Oh, no. Not again.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. Sunday is just what I want. Baby, my heart's on fire. If you refuse me, honey, you lose me. Then you'll be left alone. Oh, baby, telephone and tell me I'm your own.
Check, please.
And talking to my mom about it, because I just remember Aliens, the sequel. And to me, I'm just like, okay. And I remember them saying it's called Aliens because the first one is Alien and there's more in this one. And me just being like, yeah, whatever, I'm 8.
Yeah.
And talking to my mom about it after seeing Spaceballs and just being like, tell me about what's going on. And she's like, oh, you thought Aliens was scary, like the
She's
first
like,
one
buckle up,
is like so scary. It's a horror movie, and to me, to my like 8-year-old brain, I'm like, but it's a science fiction movie with like aliens in outer space. Like horror movies are like scary monsters, Freddy Krueger, and not being able to kind of reconcile that it's a horror movie. And she's like, no, it's really, really, really scary. And finally, when I did see it, just being like, yeah, this movie is fucking wild. Like, it's so effective. I think if this movie came out today in theaters, people would just lose their minds.
Audiences would still lose their minds over
would love it. It's just really, really extraordinarily well done. And I think it put this like kind of seed in my brain about Ridley Scott as a director and him just being this kind of like genius auteur, right?
These are fucking movies.
Yeah. And I also remember being as a younger kid and watching Alien and feeling some type of way about the it's a co-ed crew on this ship, right? There's
truck drivers in space,
and they're just kind of like in these weird little like undergarments and white panties running around the ship, and Tom Skerritt is so handsome.
Daddy Tom Skerritt, first build in the movie. I thought that was interesting that I did not notice.
Yeah.
They're also, I think they're all wearing high top Converse as well.
Fierce.
Like through the entire movie, they're all wearing high top Converse.
And in Aliens, they're wearing Reeboks, but in this one we've got some Chuck Taylors. But just fascinated by the combination of horror and sci-fi, and Ripley as this character just being like, get the hell out of here. This is
so cool.
Yeah, and they. I was reading last night about the wardrobe choice and Ripley as well, and how they had. I think they had written the part to be a man, and then like they decided, I think right before they started shooting, to have Ripley be the part of the man, which his name in the script was like Marty something and not Ripley.
Okay.
And then they also had decided to also make their outfits all sort of like neutral, so that there wasn't like the one person who was obviously going to be the hero. It was just sort of this, like, they were all on equal footing a little bit, which I think is really interesting.
That is what's interesting about the movie in our revisit last night, is that if I was an audience member, May of 1979, went into this movie, 1 ticket to Alien, please. And I know who Tom Skerritt is because his name is the first build on the credits. It's kind of interesting that I'm surprised it's not talked about more of the reveal of who is the main character of this movie. Because it's kind of the slow reveal of, oh, it's this bitch. Like, she's going to be the one that makes it out. And for an audience, like, that would have been very exciting and different at the time.
And probably for a lot of idiots aggravating too.
Totally.
I think I think that there is a quote from Sigourney Weaver saying, like, you wouldn't expect the woman to be the hero in this story.
Yeah.
And bam, there she is,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
It was very, even for like 1979, it was pretty subversive to have her end up being the hero in this whole thing, for sure.
It's very ain't no bitches gonna catch no ghosts.
Ain't no bitches ain't gonna catch no ghost. Yeah.
Totally.
Drew, are you familiar with the documentary Jodorowsky's Dune? Did you watch it?
No.
Because I think what's really interesting about the pre-production of how we got Alien was there's this kooky South American director that what was his big breakout movie? Was it El Topo?
El Topo or the Holy Mountain?
Yeah, El Topo, the Holy Mountain, like weird South American art house movie, but he sort of became a big director coming up in Hollywood because he was developing Frank Herbert's Dune. It was going to be the first pass of Dune by a major studio. Mind you, this is pre-Star Wars.
It's like 72.
It's like early 70s. So he was working on this movie with the screenwriter, O'Bannon. And they ended up getting H.R. Geiger, who was the concept artist who came up with The Alien. And they were working on that movie in Europe. And production just sort of fizzled, and they go into it in the documentary that it was wildly ambitious. He had a big storyboard book of what this movie would look like, and it was just too much, and the studio pulled the plug on it. And Dan O'Bannon ended up taking an idea that he had called, like, that was Alien, and he ended up shopping around to studios, and he brought Geiger with him. And Ridley Scott, when Ridley Scott signed on, he saw all of the imagery that I think, like, what is the drawing called of the alien creature? It's it has a name, I can't remember it. But Ridley was immediately into it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're going to make this movie, and that is going to be the monster." And then Alien happened from Dune fizzling out. So if Dune would have been ended up making, we would not have Alien. Which I think is so fascinating.
Wild. For sure. Yeah, and we also wouldn't have H.R. Geiger as the legend that he is now, I don't think, either, you know, because he went on to, like, design a lot of more other stuff, too, after he got really popular with Alien. And he died in, I believe it was 2017, like, somewhat recently. But his art, in general, if you, like, look up his stuff, is, like, very... You can see Alien
everywhere
in everything that he does. And, like, the design of the alien spaceship, like, all of the artifacts and stuff they find, even in, like, you know, the sequels like Prometheus and stuff. Or I guess that's technically a prequel, but I don't remember if it's a prequel or a sequel.
It's a prequel.
But anyway, yeah, that's right, yeah. And he's like biomechanical sex creatures kind of thing going on, and you see that all over the place in this movie. The alien creature itself is like a dick with teeth, basically.
Very phallic. Yep.
Yeah.
Very phallic, yeah.
I mean, I feel like it took me a long time until probably watching, you know, some supplemental features on the DVD or something about this to kind of like get into the mindset of they were intentionally being subversive with the face hugger, you know, and the life cycle of the alien and the xenomorph, and like coming from the face hugger out of the egg, attaching itself onto a person, and it like depositing like the embryo like down your throat. And they were like, men are not ready for this. Like straight men are not.
I think that like I think I read a quote of this alien is gonna fuck his way onto the ship. Of that, just sort of sex is like a way to get on the ship. Yeah. And especially to use like a dude. Like a scandalo. Like something like that had never been done in a movie before.
Yeah, I was reading like a little bit of like queer writing on it last night after we watched it when it was fresh in my mind. And there's a lot of that on there about how like the face hugger stuff is like a man getting impregnated against his will, and it's sort of like turning the whole thing on its head. I think a little bit of those interpretations are kind of a stretch, but in general, I do think that was what they were going for as far as the face hugger goes, and just that the alien is this like the Ash robot says he's like the perfect creature, you know, or the not he. It doesn't really have a gender, but that it's this like perfect creature, and that it like uses reproduction as like a weapon and fucks its way onto the ship. Yeah.
I mean, but biologically, from what I remember from like high school biology, like it's pretty much just insects. Mm-hmm. Like their entire function and their teeny little, like, they're not even brains, like multi-ganglia throughout their body, is just to eat and reproduce. So that they can, and just keep it going. And that's kind of, and the xenomorph. And I don't know if, like, the term xenomorph, like, when that kind of came into the vernacular, if it was
did
comic
Geiger
books
coin it, or was it just sort of a fan thing?
No, it was actually,
it was a fan thing.
I think it was actually like a throwaway term that one of them used after the movie came out, and fans kind of latched onto it, but I don't think it's technically actually what they called the creature.
I don't think so at all. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, this movie, it's like, I always feel like, like Alien, it's from the 70s. It's just like this rough and tumble little down and dirty little movie. This bitch is 2 hours long.
And this story, like, takes its sweet time too. Which is not a read of the movie. I think it's super effective in how it's paced.
I definitely, watching it last night, forgot how the beginning of it especially kind of drags a little bit, but not in a necessarily a bad
I love
way.
the beginning.
It does,
I love the first
act. It does
act.
a really good job of like building up to this, and even like when the alien is revealed, it's still always sort of in the shadows.
Oh, yeah.
You never really see the full alien body. You see its head a couple of times. And I think part of that is because they didn't have the like technology, but they used that to their advantage, and they were like, well, we'll just make this this slow reveal, and then when it's finally attacking them, it'll still be coming from the shadows.
I'd imagine that it was probably one of those Jaws situation when
just
they made
necessity,
Jaws of that if the camera lingered on the shark for like probably a couple more frames, it probably just looked a little off, so they had to cut away from it pretty quick.
Like the full body man in a suit, when you pull back, it's a little man in a suit, but there's really cool stuff going on with like these tubes coming out of its back.
Who's the
shape of his head and all
the
that?
Actor?
He's from Africa.
He's from Africa, and he's like 6'5" or something.
He's taller than that. He's like 6'10". But just
I didn't know that.
just some of the things that they were able to do with all the like protrusions and the angles of the head and everything. They had him like on his back, like in a crab position, to just get weird shapes. This creature design is so effective. I mean, it's gone on to like how many sequels? Bolaji Badejo is
Google pictures of him. It's wild.
Nigerian,
seeing him in the suit.
But this creature is so effective. It's gone on to all these sequels, like Alien versus Predator. It's in video games, comic books. It is an iconic movie monster, right? We won't go too into Aliens. Masterpiece,
because I have a feeling we'll eventually just do an Aliens episode.
You should. That's one movie I have not seen in a long time. I've seen Alien way more times than I've seen Aliens, but it's a classic in its own way.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the franchise, like I said, the Alien versus Predator, and then like we were talking a little bit about Prometheus, and then the sequel to that.
I was watching a little bit of Prometheus today.
Those are wild.
I feel like that movie gets a bad rap, and I get people giving it shit because it's kind of a clunky movie. But whatever. I still think it's fun.
I think it's also like a beautiful movie too.
Really,
I think it just looks
beautifully
gorgeous.
shot, really beautiful. But also, when you start to pick apart of where it fits into the story of Alien, you're just going to give it. You're going to give yourself like a headache. So
yeah, that and Alien Resurrection is the same way. Where it's like not.
Alien Resurrection's like 1,000 years in the future from this, which is like who knows when this is. So it's like, I can't remember how they put all that together in the plot. I think it's more of like, as long as you hold it at arm's length, then it's really enjoyable. It's kind of a vibe movie, and it's also that period of genre filmmaking in the 2000s where it's like the CGI is pretty good.
97.
pretty good. And then they
CGI from the late 90s, yeah. And it's like that director, from what I understand, could barely speak English too, so that probably is another like weird layer of how strange that movie is.
Right, because Ridley Scott didn't sign on. That's right. Yeah, I forgot about
And they
that,
kind of like do Ripley kind of dirty at the end of the movie. Like they pretty much write them into a corner that she will never be back.
Yeah, well,
I've played one of the Alien video games. I can't remember what it's called now, but it's on PlayStation.
Okay.
And part of the plot is it's Ripley's daughter, and apparently Ridley Scott signed on to this as like it could be
canon, quote unquote canon.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a recording you find, spoiler alert, where like Ripley dies, like the alien kills her, and she's sending a recording to her daughter, and then the alien goes to her daughter's spaceship too. Yeah.
We played the arcade game at a bowling alley once. Do you remember that, Pete?
It's like a shooting game.
It's like a shooting game. Yeah.
I mean, it's just this property project IP. It's just like infiltrated popular culture so much. But I mean, I think it really does come down to how successful this movie is. And it's like, now it's kind of become I don't know, a trope or whatever. It's just like it's a haunted house in space kind of a thing, and but I think nowadays we just watched Sunshine.
We just watched Danny Boyle's Sunshine. Awesome underrated movie if you've never seen it.
It's very underrated, and also like extremely well. Danny Boyle, wrote it, but it's very, very alien.
Yes,
alien vibes for sure.
It's always the signal on another planet.
Yeah,
don't go there, girlfriend. Don't go. Don't follow the signal.
And yet they do.
Yeah.
Yet they always do.
And then something about Sunshine in particular that caught my eye was just like this like international cast.
Yeah.
This international cast, and also kind of like the characters kind of being like what does Shonda Rhimes call it when they blind casting?
Sure. Yep.
Right.
Any race, any gender, can play these characters. Yeah. I think Sunshine really kind of held on to that. But yeah,
I wonder why that movie is so underrated. It definitely didn't it didn't get good reviews.
It really didn't hit. It didn't make that much of the box office. I mean, I think it probably just wore Danny Boyle out of making a space movie, and he didn't. It just kind of fizzled. But then again, he had Slumdog Millionaire in 2008, so it clearly all worked out for him, and he had his Academy Award for Director of the Year.
I think he's doing fine.
Yeah, totally.
He's probably okay.
But that kind of leads us to this cast in this movie. They're like the cast is so great. The acting style is just so like for a sci-fi hyper realistic movie set in the future. It's like so naturally acted. You know.
The guy who plays Bilbo is the human villain.
Yeah.
the android. Yep. I can't remember his name now.
Little Ian Holm. Yeah.
Yep.
As
Ian Holm, that's
Ash,
right,
the android. The scary, disgusting, like milk-filled android.
Yeah.
Like what's going on?
Interesting little fact. I think that you mentioned this to me when Prometheus came out, that all of the robots in the Alien series, it's letters of the alphabet. There's A for Ash.
In Aliens, the android is Bishop.
C for Cal, played by Winona Ryder, and D for David.
Yeah.
And then I think that...
And then they just forgot.
That's where it ends. Yep.
But...
the Ash thing is really interesting, too, because I forgot until watching it again last night that they don't reveal that he's a droid until the very end. And then he also... When you know that... I knew he was, like, the villain through this watch, and you really do see like that actor's really good at like when bad things are starting to happen, you almost can see him smiling but not quite. Like it just, he's so good at that face, that sort of, I guess they call it like a Mona Lisa smile or whatever. Where he's not giving away that he's on the alien side, but or that he admires the alien, which I guess is what he says at the end. But that he wants it to come inside the spaceship.
And that's the overall arc of, I mean, at least the first two movies is the Weyland Corporation getting this alien. That they were...
Because it wants it as a weapon,
That they answered this call for a reason, and it was to get one of the eggs. Yep.
Yeah. and it doesn't matter. The crew is expendable, as Mother says. The directive is the crew is expendable, and that Ash should get the alien no matter what.
And you mentioned that the Weyland Corporation is not called out by name in this movie. That's an addition of James Cameron.
They say the company in this movie. They only ever say the company. Well, before we get too far into it, for those listeners that have never watched Alien before, I think we've kind of given a good rundown for what this movie's about. But Scott, do you have like a 2-sentence synopsis for Aliens? We want to incorporate truckers in space, or
truckers in space respond to a message on a foreign planet, end up getting a face sucker. They should have listened to the woman, keep him outside of the spaceship. They bring him in, burst from his chest. Alien wreaks havoc on the ship.
Sure.
And they should have listened to the woman.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. If they would have listened to Sigourney Weaver from the very beginning, there would be no movie.
You know what's wild about this movie is that, I think the crew is like 7. I think there's 7 of them. They're on the ship that is hauling, and it's essentially a giant refinery through space. 20 million.
What's the ship called? The Nostromo.
The Nostromo.
Now, what is that like? Like, what is that like? Or like, what is that word? Is it Greek? Is it? It's Roman.
Nostradamus was somebody.
I don't know.
We'll find out. But the thing is, it's like this alien, one single organism, one alien attaches itself to one of the astronauts, completely destroys the entire ship, all 7 of them, wreaks havoc. It takes an entire movie just to get one of them, right? Like, that's insane. So it's like, what would up to an army of them do? What could that do? So this company, this mysterious corporation that kind of has their hand in mining, but also they must have like a military branch that they're like, we want you to bring one back so
drop
we
it in a war zone,
weaponize this motherfucker. What kind of havoc could this thing like?
Well, when they first get to the planet that has the distress signal and they go inside of the alien spaceship, they discover that there's this whole sea of eggs, and that's how one of the face suckers, that scene is so gross when the egg opens up and it looks like it's like a chicken breast inside the egg, and then it sticks to his helmet.
Oh god.
And that all of those are one xenomorph.
Each one of those eggs is like could be
I mean,
one.
not to mention the set piece of that giant room.
Yeah.
Of the, I mean, they call them in Prometheus the engineers of that these giant like space giants, and one of them is in like the jockey seat of like a pilot, which is such a like a very haunting image, and nothing about it.
The space jockey, Okay, so I have a point.
Okay,
I want to talk about that we talked about last night. In this entire franchise, but especially in this movie and in Aliens, the existence of aliens and all other life form, extraterrestrial life form, is bandied about. But it's kind of like some people are like, "What are you talking about? You're crazy, aliens," and then other people are like, "Sure." In this movie, when they get the distress call and they're woken up from their hypersleep before, way before they're supposed to get back to Earth, months before they're supposed to get back to Earth, Ripley is reading, she's telling them like, okay, it's a distress call. And she says like, maybe human. And nobody bats an eye as to be like, well, what are you talking about? Maybe human. Well, what the hell else could it be? So the existence of aliens has to be kind of like understood.
Yeah, I think they mention when they're floating toward the planet, I think Sigourney Weaver or Ripley says, like, they say something about alien life form, and it is just sort of like taken as like, oh, okay. And they've been, they've mastered, I think, hyperspace travel and stuff, or at least they've mastered cryogenic freezing
over long
and so
distances.
They probably have already come across aliens at that point. Yeah.
And so when they find, the derelict ship, which I love, And again, another
So cool.
Geiger design. There, I mean, you said there's like very explicit, like kind of sexual undertones, overtones to his like biomechanical.
Dicks in space. Yeah.
But like, dude, there are some orifices on this ship that are just like, oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, and they also with the alien too, like with the costume itself, to make it like sort of slimy and have the ropes dripping down from its teeth.
Yeah.
They covered it in KY jelly and then shredded condoms too, but like on the suit itself. So they really leaned into the sexual part of this like not just the alien itself, but just like all of the production and everything.
Totally.
It's like very. The actors are always like glistening and
KY jelly, straight people lube.
Yeah.
yeah, right. The worst. lube.
Get it at your local Rite Aid.
Yeah, if you can get it at Rite Aid, you don't want it. We were. I think one of the things that I always remember reading about, like, you know, in reviews of the movie, is just how atmospheric it is, and like you said, it's very wet. You know, there's scenes in the ship in the Nostromo where, you know, like Harry Dean Stanton is like walking through what I'm assuming is an engine room.
Yeah, I think it's an engine room.
Yeah.
And there's like swinging chains from this like
He's looking for the cat.
5-story tall like room with like swinging chains, and it is, without hyperbole, raining inside this room.
I mean, is that rain supposed to be like condensation from
I'm
the engines or
assuming.
something?
I was thinking that last night. I was like, wait, like, why is it raining in the ship? And then I was thinking, well, like, yeah, it could be like condensation from the engine room, or like they probably have some sort of terraforming thing happening.
Sure,
for
also
food.
true. Yeah.
So maybe like there's like a natural water
So they can
cycle
have, so they
happening,
can
but-
like get.
But yeah, he in that scene, he literally is like standing under a shower of water, like letting it fall on his face. You know, when he's looking for the cat right before he gets eaten by the alien.
That reveal of the alien is so fucking cool. And I don't think it was until we got like a nice TV that you can see all of the detail of like the first like image that you see of the Xenomorph. I love it.
Yeah,
But
it's really cool.
But I remember even reading reviews like as a teenager about this movie where, you know, they were just saying like, it's so atmospheric, and there's smoke, and there's mist, and there's swinging chains, and there's, you know, dripping water inside of this spaceship that really doesn't make sense. And we're sitting here trying to make sense of it all, but it's like you don't even care because it's just so like it just adds to the atmosphere of this spooky ass scene.
I mean, something that also, I mean, it's very, would you say that it's anti-Star Wars? Like, you can't even compare it to Star Wars, especially in the years that followed A New Hope. That, I mean, it doesn't even feel like a copy from that.
Right.
It's just like this feels very new.
I mean, stylistically, you could talk about how the worn out and lived in feel of the ships kind of match. You know, George Lucas kind of had that idea, but tonally, very different from Star Wars.
For sure. Yeah.
Drew, how familiar you are with Planet of the Vampires? That's a science fiction movie from the 60s that with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think that Planet of the Vampires was the more science fiction reference that Ridley Scott had. That is a movie that has a lot of imagery that they probably kind of lift from. You can definitely see it in a movie like Prometheus because how they do their space suits, it's pretty much they're directly referencing Planet of the Vampires. So kind of a fun, kooky sci-fi movie from the 60s that they drew a lot from. And that is kind of, I mean, it's Planet of the Vampires. It's a horror movie in space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. There's also a lot of influence, I think. There's a documentary that's on, I think it's on iTunes right now, maybe, or Amazon. And it's just about like the history of Alien and how it was made. And they do mention there was a queer artist whose name I cannot remember now, and I should have looked it up, but one of the writers had a lot of influence from it. And this artist, I think they've been dead for quite a while now, but they had a very creepy, kind of similar to H.R. Geiger's aesthetic, but much more just overtly sexual and like no straight sex to be found in their art, I don't think. But one of the writers had a lot of inspiration from. I don't think any of the writers were actually gay, or at least they weren't out. But or one of the producers, maybe.
I think that documentary was done by the French filmmaker that did the Shower documentary that they made about Psycho. I think it's the same guy. It's like like the alien one is like Memory or something.
Yeah, it's Memory, like colon the alien or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. We were trying to figure out what Ripley's job was on this ship.
I mean, I think she
like,
kind
what
of is
does
a
she
pilot because she stays behind. She doesn't go with them.
Mm-hmm. She's also like third in command.
Yeah, she mentions too, like when Dallas is off the ship, she's in charge, and she kind of is ordering around Yaphet Kotto and Harry Dean Stanton. When they're like goofing off downstairs.
God, they're so mean to her when she goes down there. They're such dicks.
I mean, it's very much like a work relationship.
Yeah,
they like to give each other.
Totally.
They like to give each other shit.
Yeah.
It's like working in a kitchen at a restaurant. Like the it's like literally a pirate ship.
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah, totally.
Hey Ripley, I want to ask you a question. If they found what they're looking for out there, does that mean we get full shares?
Don't worry, Parker. Yeah, you'll get whatever's coming to you.
Look, I'm not going to do any more work. We get this straightened out.
Brett, you're guaranteed by law to get a share.
What?
Why don't you just fuck off?
What? What'd you say, Rick?
If you have any trouble, I'll be on the bridge.
Son of a bitch. What's the matter?
I was reading something, and I think it was from Roger Ebert, and he was commenting on the fact that in horror or thriller movies, the casts are usually like young people. And Sigourney Weaver and Veronica Cartwright were 29 and 30, and they were the youngest in the cast. And everybody else was just like old dudes. Tom Skerritt.
Yeah, I guess that's...
Tom Skerritt was like 48 when he made... In 79. Wild. He's an old man. I was like, shit.
Yeah, he's still...
How old was he in Steel Magnolias?
Alive, right?
Just John Hurt and Harry Dean Stanton.
and
Yaphet Kotto died.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them are dead.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, just commenting on the fact that it's kind of turning, our ideas, again, of a horror movie, kind of on its side.
I mean, I think that's kind of interesting because they're space truckers. I mean, at my job, I work with a wide range of ages. So very true to life that there are younger people in their 20s and then there are people in their 50s.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not finding that quote now.
I was watching a little bit of our iTunes special features because I bought the 4K because I wanted a nice transfer of this, and we just have our old Blu-ray disc that was probably manufactured when Blu-rays first came on the market, upgraded it, and I got the original bonus materials from the old DVD set. And there is an interesting interview with Veronica Cartwright and casting. She showed up to England thinking she was going to be Ripley. She said when she read for it, she read for Ripley, and that's what she assumed that she was cast for. And then when she showed up, she found out she was going to be this other chick.
The other
woman.
Basically.
And, like, she was just like, I don't know.
Woman number
and she
two.
was like, I don't know how I feel about this woman. Like, she's so, like, shriekish. Like, she's, like...
I love Landon.
Like, hysterical. And they
does.
had to kind of reason with her of that this is the audience surrogate, and you are going to sort of be representing the audience member in the theater reacting to all of this. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I love the Lambert
That's
character.
crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I love the Lambert character, but I love Veronica Cartwright just because she's kind of been around for so long.
She's in The Birds.
Child actress.
Yeah.
She was in The Birds. And
Her sister was on Lost in Space and Sound of Music.
Yeah, yeah, and I like her. I like her dynamic with Ripley. I forget about the
I was gonna say
the deleted scene. I always think that it is included in the theatrical cut when she slaps Ripley.
Yeah, when they bring back John Hurt and Ripley meets them like right where they're going to operate on him, and like she straight up like slaps her across the face, and it looks real. Like she actually slaps Sigourney on set.
because Ripley doesn't want to let them in to break quarantine because he's got a fucking parasite in his body.
Because she was right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And, we were talking about this, not to bring up the sequels again, but the Charlize Theron character in Prometheus does the exact same thing. She's like, no, bitches, you're not getting back on. She sets him on fire, but, she's the villain of that movie.
Meredith Vickers.
Vickers.
And Meredith is squashed underneath that ship when they, drive up to it.
If we are
if we're going to be thinking of them in canon.
Charlize's, mummified, corpse is underneath the derelict spaceship when we get there. That's how these movies tie into each other.
With Frances Cartwright in the chest burster scene, I think the moment that it comes out of the guy's chest and blood sprays on her, she actually didn't think that she didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah.
So that moment of her reacting to it is actually real. When the blood, I think she also said that she fell down too, but they didn't keep that part in. That she just got back up and they still got it.
So there's the unedited take is insane. Mm-hmm. What you see in the movie is great, and it's you see the spray and it hits her and then it cuts really quickly. The editing of the scene is done so well. The unedited take is fucking wild because it's like a fire hose and it gets her right in the face and she's like, ah, and she's like, oh god, and all that that whole reaction is real, it's visceral, and she moves to get out of the way. It's still spraying on her. It gets all on her chest and her body, and then as she's trying to move and act and be in the moment, she slips and falls on her ass, on her back, and the camera's staying on her just because it's it's the take. And when you watch it, you're like, holy shit, how are they going to use any of this? And they use because the way that the gushing blood looks is oh, that's not usable at all. But the little split that they got, it works so well. And that scene, it's just become this kind of legendary, it's gone from she wasn't prepared to be shot in the face with a jet of fake blood to none of them knew about
that it's going to come out of the chest. Which even if they didn't read their script and read the scene, they would have seen the puppeteer underneath the table when blocking the scene. Right. Yeah.
Well, I think the little baby alien is hydraulic as well. Yeah. And so they had to have seen the mechanical stuff underneath of it. Yet I think that you're right that it's become it's grown from the one woman didn't know she was gonna get sprayed in the face to that they all had no idea.
Yeah.
But I think that they didn't know. Maybe they didn't know what it looked like or something. Yeah. So they were still acting they knew that something was going to happen, but I think they just didn't know that it was this little dick worm coming out of his chest
with silver teeth
and blood.
Yeah. I always, Pete, I do expect him to do
a little dance,
do a little dance and have a little top hat and kickball chain off the table. Yeah. Alien Covenant. That movie has 10 chest burst scenes, and they are fully coming out in Alien Covenant voguing.
There's just something to be said about movies from this era that were forced to do everything practical, and it's when it's scurrying off the table. Its little tail.
I love that little shot.
Its little tail is
it's kind of cute.
It's kind of cute, and whatever. But the
it's obviously a gay alien. Its little tail.
Yeah. But for the most part, it's effective and it's scary. And the xenomorphs in what the hell is the sequel?
Alien Covenant. They're fully walking the runway.
When they come out, they're bursting out. They're on heels.
They're doing a ballroom battle or something.
It's too weird. It's too weird. It's too much articulation. I'm no, give me the baby.
It's overly produced for sure. Because the beautiful thing about Alien, the original one, is just that it's all practical effects.
Yeah.
There's even some scenes where I did giggle a little bit last night because watching it in 2022, there's it's when at the very end when the alien is is like outside of her escape pod, and it's floating around in space. Like that is a man in a suit. Yeah. But it's still
on
like,
a wire.
Effective, for sure. Right, on a wire. Yeah, exactly. If you could zoom in, you could see its little zipper.
Yeah. But a minute before that, when it's hiding in the ship, and you're just like, holy shit! It just
love that shot.
It looks like part of the ship. Like it's just the genius of the design. So like, part of the design shot one way, it's just like perfect.
It's meant to be camouflage.
Yeah. But then when you see behind the curtain and the full body, you're just like, alrighty, Rue. We were mentioning the Mother. Talked a little bit about Mother and like the computer of the ship.
Yeah, I mean, I was mentioning last night. I mean, was this type of element in a script with computers? I mean, it can probably be traced back to HAL in 2001: A Space Odyssey, right?
Yeah. I think that's probably. In fact, I think there's like almost a couple homages to that, because when she's shutting down the ship and wanting to detonate it, and then like she gets there like right at the last minute to try and reverse it, and Mother won't let her do it, and then she's I think trying to get to the pod, or to the escape pod, and she keeps saying, "Open the doors, Mother," and Mother doesn't say like, "I can't let you do that," but it's still like kind of seems a little bit like an homage to it. And then also at the end, when the Nostromo does explode, that feels very much like the end of 2001, when he's like going through the crazy like acid trip.
The explosion like effect is crazy, and I love it. Yeah.
I almost have a memory of what's her name?
Who?
The computer?
Mother.
I almost have a memory of Mother speaking before she detonates it, but they're just
the countdown.
They're just communicating on the computer, which also for a 1979 audience, like, I mean, people were not that familiar with like computers.
The say what machine
in general? Like,
it's a big calculator.
Well, I was talking about how like this is a Windows kind of computer age, so people didn't have an idea of what a graphical user interface nerd talk so it's like this text-based things, but it just, you sit in this room with a bunch of LED lights and a little screen, and it just looks so fucking futuristic.
I love the room. I love the room. It's a little disco.
It's a little disco. It's a little Space Mountain.
Yeah. I used to put a GIF of that on an old organization I used to work for. Whenever our website would be like having maintenance on it, I would just put that GIF up. Like, we're working on our computer right now.
I love that. Yeah. But I was talking about how this movie's just kind of become like a touchstone for like cultural, it hasn't been exploited, but it's just been used so much. The Xenomorph, the scenes where they are using the kind of like, I guess, heat sensors, when they're hunting the alien.
When Tom Skerritt's in like is crawling around in like the air ducts.
Yeah. And, in that scene, Lambert, she's a little weepy in that scene, but that's okay, because that scene is scary as hell.
Yeah. I would probably be doing the same.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Like, it
is super scary.
Yeah, and it's just so effective that it's just like this alien is in the ship, it's hunting all of them, and she's just like, she's the one orphan in Annie that's just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. That reveal of the alien with the arms, I love it. It's so scary.
Oh, with Dallas, with Tom Skerritt. He like reaches out. The alien's like, going in for a hug.
Yeah, that was one scene where like last night when I was watching it, I was like, I can tell that's still a person in a suit, but it's still like, it's very creepy for sure. Yeah. And actually, with the aliens, back to its suit design, I was reading too that in that scene, if you like, I guess, look really closely, you can almost see the original version of what they had done with that alien. Is they were going to have the skull be invisible, and it would be a human skull inside of the alien. Yeah. And then they decided to like make it opaque instead.
Yeah.
So it's like a shiny black like shell instead of having a sort of invisible head like it would have before. And I guess in that scene you can almost see the skull.
Okay, because I was gonna say, like, I've seen the images of the skull underneath the dome or the carapace or whatever, and I think even at the Academy Museum.
Oh, sure,
there's an alien head, and it's translucent. You can see the skull in there, and I was like, "This is at the Academy Museum." I was just thinking, are there shots? There has to be a shot somewhere in like all of the movies where you can see it, where you can see that skull, unless But yeah, it's probably in that. That's probably the best spot.
I couldn't tell. I was trying to keep that in mind last night when I was watching it, but you can't. I think that they pretty much
because it's so black. But normally,
it's like shining. Yeah, for sure.
Big Geiger note is that this creature can't have eyes.
Has no eyes,
which I think is very cool.
Yeah, it also makes it even more terrifying in a way because it's like all it's doing is just sensing via like sound and probably like taste and smell. Like it's so terrifying for sure.
Yeah. Once it starts like ticking everybody off, like first, like obviously, like
so we lose. I mean, clearly we lose. John Hurt first.
Yeah.
And then I think Harry Dean Stanton trying to find Jonesy. We haven't talked about Jonesy.
Jonesy the cat.
So who do you think Jonesy's owner is, or does he just come with the ship?
I think, isn't he Sigourney Weaver's
Is he Ripley's?
cat?
Or does she just take him because he's the last one?
I mean, she formed this bond with this cat.
Yeah.
I follow a TikTok account of a trucker that has a cat in his
cab in his truck.
Cab.
Oh,
yeah, he has a big
sweet.
TikTok account with his cat.
Oh, we were also noticing the like weird nudie like porno like pictures that were like taped up all around.
Yeah, and the magazine that Ash tries to kill Ripley with, like into her
mouth.
is I think it's a porno mag.
Okay,
yeah. Which like I'm sure there's tons of
like,
reading into you can do with that, But yeah, I think that's a porno like a Playboy that he's trying to choke her.
All
with.
right, that was probably very intentional. But yeah, all these ideas of just like they're living on this ship, And didn't you say there was like cereal? Like they were eating cereal at one point.
Kind of looks like cereal when they're all eating.
Yeah.
They're actually eating pretty good for being on a cargo ship.
Also, there's a scene that you see a lot in types of movies like this, and I think Alien is the first that did it, is the character introduction of everyone eating and having breakfast.
In the mess
I mean,
hall.
you see that in all sorts of movies now.
I mean, it's in Aliens.
Sunshine.
It's in The Matrix.
The Matrix, definitely in The Matrix, but pretty much any movie set in space, you have to have a scene like this.
Yeah.
The whole like claustrophobia of the Nostromo and like the idea of it just makes me like my anxiety just like freak out just with like the acid blood like going through all the different floors, and I'm just like, that's gonna get to the end and then it's gonna poke a hole in the ship and then you're all dead. What the hell? So crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if you're made out for space travel, Pete.
No, hell no. Put me in sleep, put me in cryo, put me in a hypersleep, wake me up in 4 years.
You want to be on the ship from Passengers with Jennifer Lawrence.
But then I'm going to be the one whose pod breaks and then I'm awake and I'll have to jump off the side of the ship.
But like you want the ship to pretty much be like the Santa Anita Mall.
Sleeper ship. Oh yeah. I would love that. If the ship was huge and like was like a shopping mall and had like a pet store and like a waterbed, showroom. And
there's like a Sam
that.
Goody.
Yeah, I would
as long as you're not the only one, like if you're like not just walking around there alone.
Yeah. Totally. Essentially just like the ship from WALL-E. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, right.
I'd be okay with that.
There's no need to walk. Yeah.
I think I would do okay in space, but I mean, you have to be really fucking smart to be an astronaut. I just don't think I'm up to that level.
Yeah. You have to like have a PhD in some sort of STEM field and you have to be like super fit as well, like have like crazy lung capacity and I don't know if I could do it either. I think also just Yeah, I don't think I'm very claustrophobic, but I definitely get a little queasy, like when I'm, in a confined space for that long, or when I watch a movie about like caving.
Oh no.
Like The Descent does a really good job of claustrophobia,
No.
And Alien,
No,
you
ma'am.
feel that for sure.
No, ma'am. Although all these jerks are just like smoking up a storm,
right?
Smoking
in space. I don't. Like, is something gonna blow up?
Yeah,
with them like
right
smoking all of these like Marlboros or something.
Compressed air environment. Probably not a good idea.
When they need to put it out, they just hold it under one of the rainfalls.
Yeah. Yeah.
on the walls.
But that's the other thing too. It's like they don't establish that it's like, oh, this is the year 2050. It's like this is way in the future. Like, don't even worry about it.
Yeah.
Like, there's artificial gravity, like hypersleep, all that shit. So
way in the future, but the movie never beats you over the head with how high tech or futuristic things are, which is very clever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it almost like you were saying earlier, Pete, the supercomputer and stuff would be mind blowing if you see that in 1979.
Yeah.
But even if you were to watch this movie in 1979, like there's not, aside from the computers, like it's all sort of like we're already in a world with Star Wars and Star Trek, and so it's kind of not a new concept as far as the technology that they use. Yeah.
And when it gets
the Alien instead is the new concept.
Absolutely, yeah. When sci-fi movies get a little too futuristic, then it's just magic, and then there's no stakes. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, we're just going to be beaming everywhere, and it's like, all right, calm down. But this, they definitely have to like work and use their their wits and all that to get from one place to the other. And when they do start getting picked off one by one, and we finally get to like towards the end. I do love when Lambert, Veronica Cartwright is just like, fuck it, man, let's blow up the damn ship. Let's get in the lifeboat.
Let's get the fuck out of Dodge.
Get the fuck out of Dodge. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, well, which I don't know why the hell the one lifeboat on the Nostromo can't even hold 4 people when there's got a crew of 7.
Yeah, I thought about that.
Flawed design.
Too.
Flawed design. It's like it's like the Titanic.
You're assuming that some people are going to die if you need to use the space pod, I guess.
Exactly.
The escape pod.
Yeah. And that's when we get the crazy ass, like Ash the android. There's like so much going on. Revelation that he's the bad guy. Revelation that he's going to kill Ripley, or he's trying to murder Ripley. Then we get like, not only is he a bad guy, not only is he trying to murder Ripley and bring an alien back, he's a weird ass milk android.
Yeah,
he's filled with milk, which they continue in the other movies as well.
They keep this thread going. I think it's a very fascinating idea for androids to be kind of, and again, going along with like Geiger, to be like biomechanical.
Yeah, they're not like it's not like you're splitting open his head and seeing like
oil,
wires.
Oil is his blood, and he's like eating a bowl of like nuts and bolts like for breakfast. Yeah,
like these are meant to replicate humans.
Yeah, yeah, more replicants than androids. But yeah, very like Battlestar Galactica. I always think that's like so fascinating. Like Blade Runner, it's just like they're like flesh. They're like flesh and blood, and when Yaphet Kotto hits him with a fire extinguisher and it literally knocks his block off, and it's just like this body with like arms. It's like, oh my god, I love it.
And the noises he makes too. I think it's before he gets his head knocked off, where he's like, it's almost like Looney Tune-ish, because he's also spinning around like in a circle really quickly.
Oh my god, it's like it just makes you're like questioning what the hell is going on, Yeah. And there is there's a little bit of ADR in there where he goes like, he's an android as he's fighting him, and then finally at the end when his head is knocked off, like there's like an insert of him going, wow, I can't believe Ash was a robot.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, I mean, clearly this is a robot, but also, again, 1979, what the hell is all that stuff? His guts are not wires.
I wonder if they added that line when they were testing it.
I think they had
with
to.
audiences.
They probably did, because they're probably like, what the hell? Is he another alien too? Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much shit going on in this scene, and then the way he tries to, I guess, suffocate Ripley with the magazine.
With the magazine.
It's
It's
weird.
So unsettling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about
it's really, for sure. Especially if it's a porn mag, that makes it worse, for sure. Yeah, just like, it's so creepy.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, and then afterwards, when he's okay, so they kind of like bring his little head back to life, to try and get some answers out of him, and that's when he gives us the revelation of the company bringing the alien back, and that's when he tells us how he kind of, and Ripley's like, you admire it, and all of that.
Yeah.
And they're so pissed off. They're just like, all right, fuck it. Let's get the hell out of here. Let's blow up the ship, whatever. And Yaphet Kotto has like the flamethrower and is just like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Just,
Torches the rest of his head.
And before the ship gets nuked, it's like, that's not enough.
No,
I need to also torch this. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man. And then it's like literally countdown. We got to get our asses like to.
Yeah. And then she tries to reverse the countdown or like reverse the self-destruct mode and like is like misses it by seconds or like by a second.
Yeah, love basically. Veronica Cartwright's last scene, and that's where you really see the horror influences of this movie. Yeah. Is that like is that scene where she dies is like straight Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just screaming her head off. She's not trying to fight anymore. Yeah, for sure.
And she's like, even when it cuts back to Ripley, who's like listening to it on the intercom, and she's just still she's just hearing is her screams, and she's just like, all right, fuck it, I'm the last one.
I mean, the last 25 minutes of this movie turns into a story about a woman and her cat, which I love. That she has to go back for Jonesy in the carrier because that's her bestie. That's like, I mean, that's like her ride or die on the ship is the cat.
Yeah, so maybe it
really
was
the
Ripley's.
protagonist of this movie is Jonesy. It's not Ripley.
I love the shots of Jonesy when Harry Dean Stanton gets pulled away by the alien. It's like this very like serene, peaceful shot of this ginger cat. Typical ginger cat, too.
Jonesy actually really hated him and was like thankful that the alien took him out.
But I mean, this all you dog people, you're probably right. This is what cats will do. If like a burglar came in your house, they will just sit there and watch as you get your brain bashed in by the robbers. And that's what Jonesy did with.
But yeah, the last like 20 minutes of this movie are a fucking ride where she's trying to get in this pod. She sees the alien blocking the way.
Yeah, that's why she goes back to try and turn off the self-destructs.
Yeah, and then she like gets into the pod and thinks the alien's gone. She has Jonesy, and we think like, all right, we're good to go. And then the alien is hiding like in this like utility cove inside of the ship, and that scene is really cool because it has like gas all around it, like it's like misty and
you get Sigourney in those panties. I love it.
You get the panties.
Iconic.
A little too small, little tiny, just a little bit of crack showing right above, and like your little tank top. It's like a set. We were noticing that there's shots before she gets on the pod where she's kind of like, she's got Jonesy and she's slowly kind of creeping her way through the ship, and she like puts her hand. It's a close up of her hands as they come out of like where she's hiding from or whatever. And it's just, I don't know if it's just like how wet everything is. It looks like glitter on her hand.
I mean,
like,
they
like
probably Ridley probably put glitter on her fingers just because it looked fucking cool on film.
Like in Legend.
I mean, look at like movies like Legend and Blade Runner. I mean, the glitter budget in Legend alone would have cost millions.
Yeah, and Joanna Cassidy is covered in glitter in Blade Runner.
Yeah,
and she's like running through the streets of LA, and she's just covered.
He knows what's Ridley knows what reads well on film.
Yeah, but her hands almost look gold because of like the lighting, and then like if it is like glitter or water or whatever, it just looks crazy.
I think they did spray the actors a lot with just like glycerin mixture. because if you look at like especially toward the end, all their faces are just like glowing.
Yeah.
Like it does look almost like it's shining. It's supposed to look like it's sweat, but yeah.
Do either of you remember the great movie ride from Walt Disney World?
Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And there's an alien
Yeah.
section of the great movie ride. Yep.
I think it's actually aliens, but it's still Ripley hiding in a hallway.
It's not. I mean, I always thought it was. I always thought it was her trying to get onto the escape pod.
Oh, okay. So it's probably
from Alien.
Oh,
that's
okay.
what I always thought it was.
Okay. I don't remember. I don't remember if her hair was short, but she pins her hair up, so it could be this movie. I just assumed it was Aliens because she's got the short haircut from Aliens.
Right.
But at this point of this movie, she pins up her long hair and it gives her that
that's right.
short haircut.
Yeah, for her cryo sleep. Yeah, I forgot that ride has Alien in it. There's also at Universal Studios, there's a ride where I think it's Universal, where the alien you're in a tunnel, on a water ride, and the alien pops out of the shadows on top. Yeah.
Oh, that must have been a Universal ride from yesteryear because I don't remember it.
Okay. And also in Florida too, I should mention.
Oh, okay.
I went to the one in Florida, not the one in Cachet. Maybe that's what it is.
Well, Disney World in Florida also had the Alien Encounter ride,
with Tyra Banks.
Heavily based on
which was
this.
heavily referenced Alien.
And that shit was scary. Listeners, if you remember the Alien Encounter at Walt Disney World at the Magic Kingdom, my sister and I were fully teenagers and traumatized. We were like, oh my God. Why was
I don't think I've ever actually been on it.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, it was.
Is it not around
no,
anymore?
It's gone.
No,
Yeah,
I think it was.
Oh,
I think it bit the dust in the early 2000s. I think.
Yeah, we went in the 90s, and I think I was a senior in high school, which means my sister was in college, and we were just like, "Oh my God!"
I think it was sort of reskinned to be Lilo and Stitch themed.
It was. It was reskinned to be Lilo and Stitch. But again, this movie, and this, it just is a template for scary alien on a ship, going to eat everybody. You watch any of these
I
movies.
did a Google search of alien ripoff movies, and there was a very long list of movies that
I can imagine.
have kind of stolen this movie. I remember watching Leviathan, which I think came out
underwater,
in the early 90s,
Probably
and that is
90s,
the underwater alien.
Yeah, I forgot about that movie. Yeah, I saw that once. I didn't really.
No, it's not great. I mean, the superior scary underwater movie is The Abyss. Again, James Cameron.
Yes.
But what is the scary space movie that I love? That's
Event
also
Horizon.
Terrible? Yes,
I've never seen Event Horizon. Is it worth watching?
It's kind of an underrated movie. I think it definitely influenced by Alien for sure, but it's more paranormal.
Yeah, paranormal.
And that's Sam Neill.
Yeah, it's
Sam
Dr.
Neill's
Alan
the
Grant.
one of the main characters. Yeah.
Kathleen Quinlan, I believe.
Kathleen Quinlan from
good.
Apollo 13. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It becomes I think the second half of it becomes a little they just kind of lose control of the movie a little bit.
I agree.
Yeah. But in general, I've seen it now a few times, and I usually come away with it being it's pretty good.
Yeah, but definitely has those influences just in the crew on this ship and the hypersleep chambers and all that stuff. It's just become. What else is on there?
And they're investigating a black hole. I think.
Yes.
Yeah, Event Horizon. Yeah,
Supernova. Directed by Walter Smitty or something that Francis Ford Coppola took his name off of, with Angela Bassett and from Can't Hardly Wait in Twilight.
Peter Facinelli.
Peter Facinelli, yeah.
Okay.
And he's like a fuckboy that they find in space. Yeah, that movie's wild. I remember watching that when I was a kid.
Well, let me tell you this: we were watching Sunshine the other day, and I forgot Chris Evans was in it.
Yeah.
And I was like,
pre-Marvel Chris Evans.
What's going on with this wig? Why do they put him in this wig? But it's like a character beat. you get a haircut.
You get the buzz.
Then you get the buzz cut. Chris Evans,
you get the buzz cut
which I love. Yeah.
And I mean, Sunshine ends like crazy. Like they're like
it goes a little Event Horizon.
It goes a little Event Horizon. I like just so off the
deep
chain the end of that movie gets.
Yeah.
With the captain of the previous ship like chasing him around.
Spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
20-year-old spoiler alert. 15-year-old spoiler alert.
Yeah, I think that's probably why it got kind of like it didn't get like completely panned, but it I don't even think it made any money. I think its budget was more than what they made at the box office, and that's probably why.
What's kind of interesting about the legacy of Alien is that it was well received with audiences. The critical notices were just okay. Like, I think that they praised the visuals, but I think the movie as a whole wasn't reviewed all that well. And it didn't, I mean, it took until like the 80s to have this critical reassessment, probably a little bit before Aliens came out, that kind of film critics like Roger Ebert published major articles of like, y'all are sitting on how good Alien is. That it wasn't initially very, liked critically. And then it just sort of got reassessed.
Huh, I didn't realize that. I mean, yeah, I guess it kind of makes sense. I can see it being more of an audience favorite than a critic favorite at the first. Science fiction / horror movies also kind of tend to have that happen to them too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about...
Especially when they're so groundbreaking.
Do we want to talk about a little bit about the legacy of the character of Ripley too?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we were just talking about in our last episode on Working Girl that Moran mentioned that kind of movies today with a female-led cast, or even not even female-led, like one of the last Avengers movies, of being not really subtle, kind of beating you over the head of that these are tough women. Yeah. Like, just kind of having to remind the audience of like, look at all these broads.
They can do it too, guys.
They can do it too, guys.
Yeah.
And I feel like in Alien, it's just kind of, I don't know.
It's very matter of fact.
It's very matter of fact, and they don't really like dwell too much on just sort of the gender relationships in this movie, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I think a big part of that probably is because her role was originally written to be a man. But I do think that it's surprising that they didn't, because I think it was written and produced by all men, but they didn't choose to go back and like add in some lines where she was like, never let a woman do a man's job or something like
just
that.
Just those very pandering screenwriter lines.
Period. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, like, meanwhile, like, watch a fucking DC movie and it's like Gal Gadot, I think, kind of drops lines like that all the time in those movies.
I work with children.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm babysitting all the time. Yeah, all that kind of stupid shit.
Well, and the theme of the movie basically is like if they had just listened to the woman in charge in the first place, none of this would have happened, Yeah. And Ash especially, because Ash is working on from a directive from the corporation, but he in particular treats her as subordinate, even though he is her subordinate, and he constantly is just like, I don't care if you're the leader of this ship, like I'm letting the alien on.
Yeah.
Very interesting to make Ripley as a woman to be very gender neutral. Like, they don't really have to stress that she's like feminine, a woman. Like, they just kind of went off like Sigourney Weaver's style, which I think is interesting.
They did not have to yesify the character at all. There was no girl boss on that ship.
I need a yesified Ellen Ripley. Oh my God, no. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned the wardrobe and the styling of everybody just kind of being, she's in kind of like a flight suit, kind of a jumpsuit situation the whole time. Lambert is wearing just kind of baggy, coveralls. The whole time. Yep. But, Sigourney Weaver as an actor and as a person is 5'10". She's
she's that short.
Well, maybe she's taller. I feel like
I think she's probably over 6 foot.
You think she's over 6 foot? Okay.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I thought that she was taller. Yeah.
Okay, but I mean but the thing is that she's just this like, statuesque woman or whatever, and she's a little bit a handsome woman.
A handsome woman. Yep.
I mean, not voluptuous by any means, but yeah, she's a formidable woman. If you, and especially in this role on this ship, if I was a trucker in space or whatever, and she's there, I wouldn't be like lady. she comes off even at this young age. I think I read that she was 29. You know, when she made the movie. Yeah,
they plucked her from the stage. She had been doing stage work in New York at the time. First major movie.
Yeah, she was on Broadway. Yeah. Yeah, and she also comes off as she does a really good job being like the leader of the ship. Like that's what I think is a frustrating part of the movie, like that they intentionally did, not like it was a mistake, where she is like the leader, especially when they're all off the ship and she becomes the commander of the ship and they're not listening to her. Yeah. And it's like, you know exactly what's going to happen. And if you would just listen to her in the first place, she wouldn't let listen to her and the parasite protocol or whatever they call it. Like, we wouldn't have to deal with this alien, but then we wouldn't have the movie either.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. According to Google, she is 6 foot tall and has definitely claimed that she has lost out on roles because of her height. She's too tall.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, you can't have a woman taller than the leading man.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Unless she's in an alien costume.
This is true. We have friends who have a young toddler daughter that is named Ripley.
We do? Yep.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. It's a great name for a kid.
It's a cool name, man. It's a cool name. Yeah. And it's I mean, it's just such a it's a well-written female character, but like we said, it wasn't intentionally, a female character at the start. But what has become through, so many movies and different types of media, just like an iconic.
I mean, what's
character.
Like the Pantheon or like the Mount Rushmore of these action heroes for women? It's like Ripley, Sarah Connor.
Yeah.
Sarah Connor, maybe Trinity.
Trinity.
I put Trinity up there.
Yeah.
I would probably argue to put Emily Blunt from Edge of Tomorrow on there.
Oh,
yeah.
You mean Live, Die, Repeat?
Live, Die, Repeat. Yep.
And we're gonna leave off Black Widow. No Marvel.
Yeah.
Too easy.
Oh. Probably Charlize Theron and Matt.
Oh, sure, yeah. You have to put Furiosa on there.
Yeah.
Furiosa, yeah.
And then maybe one of those broads from Faster Pussycat.
Yeah.
With like a switchblade and a big beehive.
Let's put them all up there.
Yeah. All three of them. Yeah. They hated men. But yeah, just through the course of 45 years, how old is this movie?
Yeah, and I think that they're currently developing Alien. I think it's going to go to TV. I think that's what I've been reading, is that when they do the next Alien property, it's going to be for television.
Okay.
Because that's the thing about... I mean, it's kind of like the Terminator series. Like, they keep making them, and they do not gross as much money as they used to.
Diminishing returns.
What was the success of Alien 3 from 92? Like, was it a hit at the time?
No, I don't think so.
I think it was probably seen as a disappointment.
Yeah, I think so.
I do not care for Alien 3. It is not my cup of tea. And I know that David Fincher doesn't like talking about it because he's not very proud of it. And it's probably enforced of... Probably David Fincher's experience on Alien 3 probably informs himself for being such a hard ass on movies, of that I have to make this shit perfect.
Yeah.
Because I know what happens when a movie gets away with you and a studio takes away your movie too. Mm-hmm. It all comes from Alien 3 and the fallout of that.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I think Aliens and Alien Aliens is pretty good, but then the other ones are, I mean, I do kind of like Prometheus. Like we've said before, it like gets a bad rap, but I don't mind that movie. But the other ones, even like Alien versus Predator, it is what it is. It's like it's a cheesy like action movie. It's like Freddy versus Jason.
I think I've only seen the first one. Is the first one set in Antarctica?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, they like find an old ancient relic in Antarctica, and it happens to be a predator.
I mean, I'm forever going to be Team Alien. If you like pit those two queens together.
Yeah. And actually, fun fact I learned about today, too, is that the blood that they used in Alien was also KY jelly.
Okay.
And the blood that they used in Predator was KY jelly, but then they mixed the green from a glow stick into the blood so that it would be like bright green.
Love it.
I do love the
he's
original Predator, though.
So the Predator's a circuit queen.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is pretty obvious if you watch the movie. It's like
all the
clear,
fishnet.
Yeah, I mean, just looking like he's on his way to like EDC
lasers. Yeah.
Oh man, I need to see like a voguing Predator.
Mm-hmm.
Voguing Hermione and voguing Predator can go.
We
on.
revisit Predator every few years. It's always a fun rewatch.
Yeah. The original one is good. Yeah. Isn't Adrian Brody's in that, right? Or that's the remake.
He's in one of the remakes.
He's in the one that came out in like 2010 with Topher Grace.
Right,
and you know, they fully did like a new Predator movie like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
With Jacob Tremblay, and it just kind of nobody remembers it.
I didn't see that one. Yeah. I don't remember it at all.
But you know, the thing about the Alien franchise is that through all the different sequels and directors, and I think that was kind of their initial idea when they started to make the sequels, was that each one was going to be a kind of innovative director.
Yeah.
Right. So
the
they
personality of whoever was taking it over.
So they got James Cameron to do Aliens, and it's just like, all right, obviously James Cameron. Then we got David Fincher, who
music
like
video director, hot shot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's such a fucking downer that movie is set in a prison. Like that. I mean, that number one. I think that's the big story and mistake of that movie. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then after that, with Resurrection,
Ripley is cloned because she dies at the end of 3.
Mm-hmm. And the clone still has the embryo inside it, because that's how cloning works.
She has.
That's right. Cause there's a chest burster scene with Ripley's clone, right? In Alien Resurrection. So, the movie is a mess.
It's wild.
Yeah,
but that is directed by the director of Amelie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Resurrection has its moments that I like. I like Brad Dourif. Resurrection. Crazy performance.
Dan Hedaya.
Movies that made us gay treasure. Swimming xenomorphs. I love that shit when you see them underwater. I've mentioned that before.
That's right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah. I'll have to watch that again. Yeah.
You know, and that director.
And I'll have to watch.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say I'll have to watch Alien Covenant too for the voguing.
Yeah.
Aliens too.
You have to.
I saw that one in theaters and then I didn't revisit it, but I should.
I remember we saw that movie at the Fox lot, and that theater was fucking lit. Mm-hmm. Like everyone was having a good time at Alien Covenant.
Okay.
Yep.
That's funny. I remember seeing it, but I was just
we saw that at the Fox lot.
Mm-hmm. So I think each one has a little something. There's little things that are brought into the lore of, you know, the xenomorphs and where they came from and who, you know, were they engineered? Were, you know, are they bioweapons already? All that kind of stuff. I think.
I mean, there's not like a planet of xenomorphs,
or is there?
I don't know.
Alien 3 did a really cool. Well, they tried to do a really cool thing of the xenomorph kind of taking the shape of its host. So they tried to do a thing where a face hugger got a dog. No, not a dog. Got a cow or something because they had livestock.
That's right.
And then it was going to be on all fours.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
that's right.
And I think that's from the comic books. You know, so it's like we only ever see xenomorphs walking upright because they've you know.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but was there a teaser for Alien 3 that came out that was sort of like pieced together like xenomorphs were loose on Earth? Or am I making that up in my head? That's how that movie was initially sold.
There might have been a teaser like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because isn't that part of the plot that they get loose on Earth in that movie?
Might be. I think that's 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm getting mixed up. Yeah.
To kind of end the episode, what I was trying to think of today, and Drew, maybe you can help me out. I was trying to do the obvious, like, LGBT themes of this movie, and maybe you've read some stuff about it. Can you almost think of the alien as almost like the like the AIDS epidemic, and Ripley is kind of like survival.
Ooh.
For that just like the gay community. I was kind of thinking about that today. I was trying to form it in my
Run
head.
for your life, bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that about any sort of survival movie.
I mean, it's kind of like why the LGBT community latches on to Final Girls too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like that story of survival.
Yeah, I do think that Sigourney Weaver's Ripley is, it's more of a like feminist icon, which is queer. I think this movie has a lot more feminist tones to it than it does overtly queer tones, but there are like you could do some queer interpretations of it for sure, especially like the sort of the sexual part of it. Like it's overtly sexual, but also it's like a it's in a subversive way too, and it's also like turning it on its head with the men are the one getting pregnant, which again is like more of a feminist read for straight people, but certainly could be queer too.
And I mean, it just has a big phallus coming out of its mouth. Mm-hmm. It just like pokes.
It's a big phallus
you in the
with
face
a little phallus,
with a little tiny one inside of it. Yeah. Too crazy with silver teeth. Oh my god! But I mean, the thing about the Alien franchise, these first two specifically, and Alien 1979, they're so watchable still. Like we were saying, this movie functions as a horror movie in 2022. Watching it last night, we were just like completely watching, paying attention. It's so,
I was watching the trailer of this movie of what the original advertising was for it. If I was sitting in a movie theater in the late 70s and I saw that original teaser, it would scare the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Of just how they cut that trailer. They use I think they sample an older Jerry Goldsmith score. I don't think it's for anything that he did for Alien. And just like all the images. There's no dialogue in the trailer. It's all just visual.
Yeah.
It's basically all just Ripley running through the claustrophobic spaceship, and it's all dark and
And then they end the trailer with the iconic tagline, "In space, no one can hear you scream."
Yep.
Which is copywriting gold. Like, probably one of the best taglines in movie history, in my opinion.
Yeah, really good.
For sure. I mean, it like, everyone recognizes that tagline from the movie Alien.
It's just always been around, and it's from this movie. Yeah. Oh, man. So, there's got to be people who've never seen this movie before. But, I mean,
I was talking to, younger coworkers that are, 21, 22 years old, and I had to convince him to watch this movie. Of that, bro, you need to watch Alien. I think it's on HBO Max right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's old, but, it's this is where it all comes from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
This is all the stuff that you like now comes from this movie or movies like this. Yeah,
absolutely. Oh, man. Yeah, so it's it's always streaming on something. It's on HBO Max right now, I believe. There's always, Alien combo packs. You could probably go buy a DVD of it at Target for $4.99.
I mentioned I just upgraded to our 4K. There's no 4K Aliens 4K yet, just because Jim Cameron is making all those fucking Avatar movies, and he doesn't have time to do the 4K transfer for Aliens or Titanic yet.
Oh, man.
Oh, or Titanic?
No, there's no 4K of Titanic.
That's
and I think that he just
really
has to I think sometimes the directors of these type of movies are that hands-on with the transfers that they just haven't. I think the only James Cameron movie they've done in 4K, I think, is T2.
Sure, yeah.
And they did that for a big anniversary theatrical, I think.
Yeah. Well, I rented it on iTunes last night, and it looks beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So go watch this movie if you haven't already. Listeners,
Drew, it was so nice to catch up with you.
Yes, this was so much
to see you all, as always.
We're in apartment transitions, both of us. So
at the same
you are
time.
in your new place. We are in the process of moving. Pete, it's going to be exciting when I'm looking forward to. We're going to be
setting up a new recording.
We're going to be setting up a new recording space, and also we're going to have our last recorded episode in a few weeks in this apartment. I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. End of an era.
End of an era.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
the legacy,
absolutely.
for sure.
Well, thanks for coming on one more time, and we definitely would love to have you on again in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me, as always.
You're very welcome.
Bye, Drew.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
And thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Another great show.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Our
Love Alien.
Back-to-back Sigourney Weaver movies.
Yes, indeed. Our
Love it.
Summer of Sigourney.
I mean, we had Brendan Fraser
Yeah.
in 2020.
Yeah. We've done. I mean,
Yeah.
Come on. Summer of Sigourney. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. I think it is that time.
Patreon shout-outs?
It's time for Patreon shout-outs. We'd love to say hello to all of our wonderful patrons, including Ted, Benny, Jermel, Melanie, Christopher, Susan, JJ, Leighton, Shelby, Michael, Charlie, Muffy, Paul, Jamie, Drew, Jimmy, Genevieve, Dawn, Joshua, Emma, Millie, Aaron, Melinda, Jim, Jessica, Nick, and Shannon, Christine, and Rufino. Thank you so much, everybody.
So much.
We would love for you to head over to patreon.com/movies that made us gay to check out all of the tiers of additional content that we have, including
Our Watch With Us commentaries. Yeah. I post photos sometimes.
We got behind the scenes photos. We've got seasonal playlists. We've got postcards. We've got
the
newsletters.
newsletter. Yeah.
All this fun stuff.
We'll be working on the new newsletter because we're going to do 2 this month.
And it's all there on Patreon for you to check out. So go ahead and head over and take a look. We would also love it if you would rate, review, and subscribe.
Give us 5 stars. It helps with the
It helps our
mysterious
show.
Apple trackings, the algorithms.
Helps our show to get out there, get spread out, people to find us. And, we love it. We love seeing those stars go up, up, up. So if you are a listener on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, we would love it if you smash 5 stars. If you're an Apple Podcast listener, we would love it if you would write us a good review.
Yeah, we'll read it on air.
We'll read it on one of the episodes like we've done in the past. So head over and do that as well. You can follow Movies That Made Us Gay on Instagram and on Facebook at Movies That Made Us Gay.
And on Twitter, MTMUGPod.
Yes, indeed. You can follow us on our personal socials as well. I am Pete. I am at Peter Lasagna on Instagram and Twitter.
I'm Scott Youngballer on Instagram, and follow my letterbox.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for listening once again, everybody. We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.